All right, y'all. We back with another video, man. Y'all already know what's going on. All right. Now check this out, right? One of my all-time favorite topics outside of what this channel, originally became popular for, which of course was like the sacrifice, selling your soul videos. I think this one has to be top two favorite topics of all time, right? And it's the ability to transfer souls a lot. We've talked about this topic a lot, all the way back to Kodak Black when he first got out of jail a couple years back, even further back with Gucci, which we still talk about to this day. We talked about the clone thing all the way back to Tupac, body doubles all the way back to Michael Jackson. I mean, you name it, we've talked about it. But the transfer of souls is a topic that a lot of people can't quite grasp. A lot of people think of it as, God owns your soul and we can't touch the soul. We can't extract it out of the body. So there's no way that a soul can be transferred or, a soul can take the back seat in one's own body. A lot of people can't really process the information, right? Now, the reason I'm doing the video is because I just saw a clip from a random creator on TikTok and it went pretty viral, maybe 3-4 million views. And he was talking about how the Canaanites sacrifice the little ones to Molech. And he also talked about I forget the exact name. It was like the through the fire type of ritual where they were actually transferring souls, also transferring spirits by way of ritual. And these demonic entities were taking possession of the new body that the person in the original body, spiritually, they died. Their soul took a back seat while this demonic entity took over that person's body. And, he gave scripture to match it as well. I just thought it was a really interesting clip. And I also saw another clip from a 607 Unk video where he talked about it. Now, this is just stuff to support the video, support the topic, context. I have to give credit to Orlando Brown for really making this something where people just thought he was crazy, because Orlando Brown has been talking about transferring spirits and, people in Hollywood still being alive, but they tell you that they're dead and these folks are still living. He just had a very, very, clever way of putting this stuff without really telling you straight up, right? Orlando Brown, I don't know. You could say he was way ahead of his time with the soul transfer stuff, right? But I'll probably have like some random pictures of, celebs on screen that recently we have thought to be cloned, or they look very different, and we were asking ourselves why. Why do these people look this way? What's changing so much? Why they got the skeleton faces? Now, I myself, like I said, I love the topic, so I'll entertain it all the time, because it very well could be true that this have been, a transfer of souls, a transfer of spirits. I mean, you get all kind of examples in pop culture. The movie Get Out, Kanye talked about the movie Get Out being about him. You get that movie Black Box on Amazon Prime that I bring up all the time, Behind Her Eyes on Netflix. There's so many examples, Skeleton Key, of them transferring spirits, transferring souls by way of ritual. It's something a ritual has to be done. Obviously, this is, through Get Out. Now it was more like technology wise, it was a way through science to transfer the consciousness to where, you know, this person, this entity that took over can now mimic the person that was in that body. Get Out was like a little bit different, because it was kind of like transferring the consciousness, uploading, another person's consciousness, and they're the person that they were originally before. In the case of these celebrities who look a lot different, and it's still their body, but their face and their body has kind of morphed and they look soulless. Could be the case of a soul transfer and a demonic entity taking over that body. And that's why they look so different. They look drained out. They look like skeleton faces. It's because that spirit is now mimicking the person who used to inhabit that body. Very, very, very interesting theory. But with that being said, y'all, we'll go ahead and jump into a clip. Check this out.
They're not clones. It's worse than that. Everyone's talking about celebrity clones, but what if I told you it's not cloning? It's something the Bible warned us about 3,000 years ago. And you've seen it. Your favorite artist suddenly acts different, or your favorite actor, a different energy, different eyes, and people say they cloned them. But listen, cloning is the cover story for what's actually happening. The Canaanites practiced child sacrifice to Moloch, but it wasn't just killing. In Leviticus 18 and 21, they call it passing through the fire. They were performing soul transfer rituals, harvesting life force and putting entities into other bodies. That technology never died. It just went underground. When someone signs their life away to the industry, that's a covenant. It's a trauma-based programming, and it fractures the original soul. And rituals create the opening. The original person dies spiritually, and a prepared entity walks its way on in the same body, but a different driver. And that's why they seem off. In Mark 5 and 9, it says legion, multiple entities in one body, familiar spirits. In Leviticus 19 and 31, it says demons that mimic the person they replaced. This isn't new. It's ancient Canaanite tech repackaged for entertainment industrial complex. It explains sudden personality changes, lost memories, and different mannerisms, and doing unspeakable things without remorse, because their conscious left. And what's operating now is something else entirely. They don't clone bodies, they steal them. And you're watching it happen in real time.
Now, although I am a firm believer of clones, but I think, essentially it could be exactly the same thing. Now, just having this Jim Carrey picture up, this makes sense about the clip that we just watched, because it very well could be a ritual that is done to where the real Jim Carrey is in the back seat of his own body now. And when that prepared entity comes and takes over that body, the face morphs a little bit, looks a little bit more sunken in, looks a little bit different because the same host is no longer in that body. So something is going to change. It's not just going to be the same character, the same life force of the original person. That makes a lot of sense. But, it essentially it could be the same as far as a clone as well. But it may not be exactly the same process because maybe there needs to be a soul in the existing body already in order for the ritual to work. Maybe there needs to be that life force of blood already there in order for the ritual to work, as far as transferring spirits, trading spirits, because it makes me think about the show I've talked about on the channel before called The 100 on CW. It's about 6 or 7 seasons. So if you're looking for something to binge and you ain't seen The 100, I advise you to go watch it. It's basically this same topic, but not so direct. It's more about bloodlines. And, if you had that black blood in the 100, if you were, they called them commanders. I think I've talked about this before. If you had the blood of the commanders, you could wear the chip to become a commander. That chip held all of the previous commanders. So their spirits, their souls were in the chip. And whatever current commander that had the blood, they were able to have the chip implanted in them and be commander. The reason they have the chip is so they can get advice and stuff from all the previous commanders. So they're all still one to whoever is wearing the chip. But their minds and their consciousness is in that chip now if, they're no longer commander and they're dead. But you had to have the blood. If you didn't have the blood, you would just die immediately from the chip because it doesn't sync with your blood. And essentially, that's kind of like the same thing this is as well, because I don't believe you could just transfer the spirit, transfer the soul of anyone. I think And I've heard it spoke on before that the bloodline, it has to be a certain type of bloodline as well, or preferably the little ones. It has to be a certain type of bloodline in order for them to be possessed by those spirits better so they can operate better. You know what I'm saying? It has to be a certain bloodline. And most of us, we are aware of what that bloodline is.
You know that a lot of people don't understand that even when they do blood transfusion is one thing, but what if I told you they taking bodies, right? They got a soul, and they swapping that soul and putting it in another body. What if I told you that? You talk about a blood transfusion. What if I told that you can take your soul and just put it in another shell and continue to live?
I would think that's kind of what they lead to in the future, but
Not doing it right. What the fuck? Ain't no future. Everything's happening right now.
You think they really got to?
What do you mean? I know they're doing it right now. It's proven.
Is that the same as like cloning or cloning people, or what do you mean?
Listen, cloning. Listen.
What's the difference?
Listen, when you cloning somebody, you're just cloning their body. You trying to you cloning their muscle, they look alike, their presence, who they, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. But when you actually transfer their soul, you transferring the essence of that person, right? That's who that person is, right? Besides who they are this time, that's the key to who they are. And you can transfer that from one person to the next. Right?
A person, can a regressive entity take over a human body? The answer to that is absolutely yes. And the process is actually very simple. They abduct someone, they bring him to death very slowly, and the moment his last breath, his essence, leaves the body, they replace it with another. Several moments later, that person, that body will rise off the table. It'll be the same physical body, but inside it has a completely different agenda, because now it's a different soul. That technology does exist.
Would you call that a life?
Yes, I would.
Would they have the memory of the original body?
Yes, they do. But my understanding is that there's anywhere from 3 to 7 months where there is a transition period. And generally when it happens to a major figure, they will be out of the limelight or be very rarely seen. Okay, when that happens, because they're still adjusting. Now let's talk about that some more. The word is, well, what some people have said is, well, I saw them turn into a reptilian. I actually saw the reptilian. Now, that's probably very true. Now, that doesn't mean that they're actually a reptilian and they're just, using technology to look like a human being. It's a human body. But you got to remember something. Reptilians are not used to the extremes of emotions. They don't have emotions like we do. Okay, in fact, many of the human races out there don't have the extreme of emotions that we do. So what happens is that if there's a situation where the body gets excited, because it's a human body, that's what it does. It's this huge antenna. When it gets excited, the reptilian soul inside doesn't know how to act. Okay? So he probably either gets frightened or he gets alarmed. And when he does that, because they're extremely powerful souls, okay, you see a projection of themselves. You see the projection of themselves in their auric field. You will see it, okay, because they're not used to the emotions. They don't know how to handle it.
Now, hearing that clip, I instantly think about Gucci, because we went back and forth. I done made so many videos about Gucci clone, whatever you want to call it. Y'all better start believing that this stuff is real. Truth is stranger than fiction. Truth is stranger than fiction. This is why I said I don't believe they can do it to everybody. But it says they have a very small window for the ritual to be complete, for a demonic entity to take control of the body. And it takes time for the person to adapt that new entity, and they will have the same memories. Remember, these demonic spirits can mimic the person that was there before. And it makes me think about Gucci. It's why the weight changed, face changed, everything changed. For a while, didn't sound the same, nothing. But see, with Gucci, it was a little different. Like, people was pointing out tattoos being different, all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it really makes me think about him the most, because that could be exactly what happened. And maybe it's not a straight up clone, but maybe, just maybe, his soul was transferred. His soul is gone. The original Gucci is gone. But whoever that demon is inside of Gucci's body is still here. But I think it's happening, y'all. I think it's happening. You know, some of the I think this right here would be one of the most darkest demonic things, if it really ever comes to light, that we could possibly imagine. Outside of seeing some kind of wild ass monster from the underworld come through this realm or something, you know what I'm saying? Outside of like knowing that, you know, some of these deities or these fallen angels can walk in and out of our dimension, I think this would be some of the craziest stuff to ever know. The fact that a spirit can take over someone's body and the original soul is absolutely gone. They don't make these movies for no reason. They don't make these shows for no reason. You think Get Out was just an amazing idea by Jordan Peele and whoever else helped out? You think it was just, oh yeah, this is amazing. We just thought of this. This would be a great movie. You think this shit is not real? You think a lower budget film? Go watch Black Box, y'all. Go watch it. I might just rewatch it just because I'm so interested in it right now. Go watch Black Box on Prime. The lady literally saved her son's consciousness, his soul, basically, for, when someone else came along, she could upload it into the new person. This stuff don't come from nowhere, y'all. That being said, y'all, let me know what y'all think about this one. Thought it was pretty interesting. We could go on. We could go all day with this topic, y'all, for sure. Um, Let me know what y'all think. It's Black Balloon, and I'm going to see y'all soon, all right?